Okay, so one would think, hey, do your research, right? And just type in the word Passover and figure out when it occurs. And, well, you do that, and then here you see, obviously, that Monday, March 25th, or Nisan 14, starts the Passover at evening. And then through the Feast of Unleavened Bread and First Fruits, the end of this whole week of feasts, minus the Feast of Weeks or Pentecost, ends on April the 2nd. So you'd think, well, that's okay, well, then there you go. Well, the thing is that, as I alluded to in my last video, this is a fixed calendar. This is the wrong calendar. So therefore, the calendars you have in your home that tell you when the Passover is, even the calendar that's mentioned in Daniel's timeline, is off. Now, regarding Daniel's timeline, the 22nd of March has no bound on the spring feasts. So I am not going to write this off just yet, because there's some more stuff I'm going to get into in the next couple videos I'm going to be putting up to this one, and I'm going to be putting all of these up in one series and one playlist so you can watch them. And I'm going to give you the links to the research that I've done and the scriptures to back up the articles I've read. And you can look this up yourself. Now, in the first video I did regarding the Passover, how this is a counterfeit Passover, I explained that the Passover occurs, obviously, in the first month. And the first month is called Abib, or Aviv, and obviously that is symbolized when all the barley is ready for harvest throughout all the land of Israel. Biblical Israel, not the one you see over there, because biblical Israel was a lot larger than what we have, the counterfeit Israel that we have over there right now. So that could be kind of confusing. Well, what is the easiest way for us to tell? And Yahuwah has, I'm getting used to the Hebrew names of God, so I mean, not that it's a bad thing. I kind of like saying them. But anyway, he gives us a simple answer in determining these things, and it's in Genesis 1:14. Okay? Because obviously Noah couldn't tell by the barley harvest. He was on a boat. And he was able to tell when the first months were and these types of things. So let's go to Scripture, and obviously I'm going to prove again that this is not the Passover. The Passover occurs a month later, basically. So how does God make this simple for us? Well, if it's not the green ears of barley, but the sun and moon which determines the calendar. Period. Okay? And as a result, the year. So what signals the end of one year and the beginning of another? Not the barley harvest. The equinox and the new moon does. Equinox, in other words, the sun. The cycle of the sun. Now again, a lot of people will probably come at me, oh, that's pagan. Who made the sun? Look at Genesis 1:14, and God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night. And let them be for signs, and for seasons, and for days, and for years. How do we determine the end of a day? From the going down of the sun. Once the sun starts going down, that's even. That ends one day, and it starts the next, according to the biblical calendar of keeping. How do we determine the seasons? Spring, summer, fall, winter. Well, you have two equinoxes, and it's interesting that you have two sets of feasts. You have the spring feast and you have the fall feast. There are only two equinoxes. That's depicted by the sun, and that is the spring equinox and the fall equinox. How do we determine the end of the year? By the equinox, the spring equinox. Alright, now, I mean, a lot of people like to use the moon, and then they just disregard the sun. Well, I mean, like I said, he gave the sun, moon, and stars. So we are going to use the sun, the moon, and the stars. We're not going to use the Hillel calendar that the current Jewish people and Jerusalem and Israel and all the other messianics or whatever are using. Okay? Now, I did a little bit of a word study, and I had some help doing this. The word tek-oo-faw appears only 4 times in the scriptures. Okay? And 3 of them are in reference to the calendar or a fixed time. Remember, the word seasons means a fixed time? Okay? And that word is tek-oo-faw. What does tek-oo-faw mean? It's a revolution. That is of the sun. Or a course of time. Lapse. A circuit. Come about. Or end. Okay? You can go even further. It means coming around. So a revolution of the sun. Circuit of time or space. A turning. A circuit. A turning like as in what? A season? You know, from spring to summer. Summer to fall. How is that determined? Well, from summer to fall, or from spring to summer, you have what is called the solstice. Or what is known today as the solstice. That's determined around the sun. Now, there are only 4 seasons or set times in a year, to a year. The sun dictates all 4 of them. Okay? This is why I believe getting these feast days are very important, because the articles I'm going to present to you are going to be profound. And you're going to see the counterfeit after all of this is done. You're going to see it. It's going to be clear as day. You're going to see how they're using the Bible and twisting it to fit their own means and fit their own agenda. And yes, this is in regards to Obama going to Israel. On the supposed Nisan the 10th, the day the same day that Yeshua, or Jesus, rode into Jerusalem on an ass, or donkey. Kind of interesting that Obama's symbol as a Democrat is a donkey, but yet it's the counterfeit Nissan. It's not the real Nissan. The real Nissan occurs in April. So, we look at the first time it appears in 1 Samuel 1:20. Wherefore it came to pass, when the time was come, tek-oo-faw, when the time was come, an end. So when the time was come about after Hannah had conceived, that she bare a son, and called his name Samuel, saying, because I have asked him of the Lord. So obviously her time was come. So what does that mean? At the end of her cycle of pregnancy, tek-oo-faw, her time was come, and she bare Samuel. Okay, this is the only time where it's not really determining the schedule, or maybe the equinox of the sun, or what have you. Alright? Although very well could have been. I don't know. In that case. Exodus 34:22. And thou shalt observe the Feast of Weeks. When does that occur? That's a spring feast, isn't it? That's Pentecost. Of the first fruits of wheat harvest, and the feast of ingathering at the year's end, tek-oo-faw. Now, does this mean at the year's end, as in the supposed 7th month? The year's end, according to the Talmudic teachings and the Hillel calendar? Or does this mean that the end of the year, starting the first of the year, the first month of the year, you have the Feast of Weeks? Because obviously, at the year's end is when the spring feasts are about to come about. So, at the full circle, at the spring equinox, the first new moon after the spring equinox is Nisan, or Abib, and that is when Passover starts. That is when unleavened bread starts. That is when first fruit starts. And then 7 Sabbaths after that, plus a day, you have Pentecost, or the Feast of Weeks. These are what is known as the spring feasts. All occur in the springtime. Right now, we are still in the 12th month. Or we are just getting into the 12th month. The third time, 2 Chronicles 24:23. And it came to pass at the end, tek-oo-faw, of the year. That means it made its full circle. The sun made its full revolution. Okay? Full revolution. So we have come to the end of the year and we start a beginning of the year. And when does that happen? Springtime. That the host of Syria came up against him, and they came to Judah and Jerusalem, and destroyed all the princes of the people from among the people, and sent all the spoil of them unto the king of Damascus. The fourth time, and I think this is a very profound passage here in Psalms. Prophetically, too. Psalms 19:4-8. Their line is gone out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. In them hath he set a tabernacle for the sun, S-U-N, which is as a bridegroom coming out of his chamber, and rejoiceth as a strong man to run a race. His going forth is from the end of the heaven, and his circuit, which is another word for tek-oo-faw, unto the ends of it. So a full end. He's Yeshua, Yahuwah, Yahweh declares the end from the beginning. Alpha and the Omega, and there is nothing hid from the heat thereof. The law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple. The statutes of the Lord are right, rejoicing the heart. The commandment of the Lord is pure, enlightening the eyes. A lot of prophecies can really start to open up to you if we learn and study these feast days. How you observe them, I don't know. I'm not you. Okay? That's between you and God. Okay? I'm not going to say don't do it, and I'm not going to say do it. You know, I'm a firm believer in learning them, studying them, and if the conscience pricks you, observing them to the best of your ability. But it is clear that that these passages, except for the one in 1 Samuel, possibly alludes to the calendar year. The above passages from the Bible indicate that the men of God, or men of Yah, in the Tanakh, the Old Testament, understood the equinox and its place in Yah's calendar. So hopefully this explained the equinox for you guys. So once again, this Passover right here is wrong. Nisan the 10th is next month. The first month of Nisan appears on April 10th. Nisan the 10 appears on the 20th of April. This is a fixed date. This is a wrong date. So if people are going to be observing Passover, they're going to be observing it at the wrong time. Again, I remind you, the first month of the year occurs on the first new moon after the spring equinox, which is the 20th of March. Okay? So I'm going to conclude this video, and I'm going to go into something else that's going to tie into the counterfeit Passover and what is going on with that. There's some pretty profound things going on with that. So, until next time, truth be told, truth be known, stay safe, stay tuned, and God bless. Bye-bye.